On the night of February 1st, 1959, 9 experienced hikers set up camp on a remote mountain slope in the northern Ural Mountains of Russia. They ate dinner. They wrote in their diaries. They settled in for the night. By morning, every single one of them was dead. Their tent had been ripped open from the inside. Footprints surrounded the area, some wearing socks, some wearing a single shoe, some completely barefoot, all leading toward the edge of a nearby wood. In temperatures as low as -40 degrees, without coats, without boots, without any apparent reason to leave the safety of their shelter. 9 people who knew exactly what they were doing in these mountains. 9 people who had survived conditions like this before. And not one of them made it through that single night. The Soviet government investigated. They closed the case. They classified the files. And the official conclusion they offered the world was 4 words: a compelling natural force. That was it. No explanation, no details, just 4 words and a sealed file. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass incident. And over 60 years later, nobody has ever fully explained what happened on that mountain. In this video, we are going to take you through everything. Who these 9 people were, and why they had every reason to survive. What the search party found when they finally reached that mountain. The horror that lay buried beneath the snow. The theories that have consumed investigators, scientists, and governments for over 6 decades. The one man who walked away and spent the rest of his life wishing he had answers. And the silence that has never, in over 60 years, been broken. This is the Dyatlov Pass incident. On January 23, 1959, a group of 10 hikers set out from the city of Sverdlovsk, now known as Yekaterinburg. They were students and recent graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, young, ambitious, and deeply passionate about the outdoors. Their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, a radio engineering student described by those who knew him as selfless, kind, and deeply respected within the group for his physical endurance and hiking experience. This was the kind of man people trusted with their lives. Among the group was 20-year-old Lyudmila Dubinina, a third-year student who loved singing and photography. Known as extraordinarily tough, on a previous expedition she had been accidentally shot by another hiker, endured the pain for the rest of the trip, and even apologized for the trouble she caused. And then there was Semyon Zolotaryov, 37 years old, conspicuously older than the rest. A last-minute addition to the group, whose inclusion has fascinated researchers ever since. All members were experienced hikers, embarking on this journey to earn the highest skiing certification available in the Soviet Union at the time. Their destination was Otorten Mountain, a name that in the local Munsi language translates to something that, in hindsight, feels deeply unsettling. Don't go there. On January 28th, Yuri Yudin turned back due to illness. He hugged his friends, said his goodbyes, and walked away from the mountains. He never saw any of them again. The remaining 9 pushed deeper into the wilderness, toward a slope the local people called by another name entirely, Kholat Syakhl, Death Mountain. When the group's expected return date came and went without any contact, a search party was sent out on February 20th. What they found when they reached the campsite stopped them cold. The tent had been ripped open from the inside. Footprints surrounded the area, some belonging to people wearing socks, some wearing a single shoe, some completely barefoot, all leading in the same direction, toward the edge of a nearby wood. The searchers followed the footprints. Over a mile away from the tent, they found the first two bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, lying near the remains of a small campfire, nearly naked, in -40-degree temperatures. 3 more bodies were found shortly after, including the body of Igor Dyatlov himself, scattered between the tent and the tree line, as if they had been trying to crawl back toward shelter. 5 bodies, all dead from hypothermia, all inadequately dressed, all without any visible explanation for why they had left a perfectly functional tent in the middle of the night in the most lethal conditions imaginable. But the investigation was not over, because 4 members of the group were still missing. The remaining 4 hikers were discovered buried under the snow in a ravine, 75 meters deeper into the woods, and their bodies told a far more disturbing story. Nikolai Thibault Brignol, 23 years old, had suffered significant skull damage. Lyudmila Dubinina, just 20 years old, and Semyon Zolotaryov, 38, had major chest fractures. Fractures that could only have been caused by an immense force, comparable to that of a car crash. But there were no external wounds, no bruising on the skin that would suggest a beating or a fall. The force that broke their bones had come from somewhere that left no visible trace on the outside of their bodies. And then there was the detail that has haunted this case more than any other. Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, her eyes, part of her lips, and facial tissue. The official explanation was that her body had been submerged in water and natural decomposition had caused the tissue loss. Many investigators and scientists have never fully accepted that explanation. Some of the hikers' clothing tested positive for radioactivity. Theories about what happened have ranged from government weapons testing to the KGB to paranormal phenomena. The mountain itself, Kolatsiakl, translates from the local Mansi language as Death Mountain. The Mansi people of the region had long considered it a cursed and sacred place, warning outsiders to stay away. Over the decades since 1959, investigators, scientists, journalists, and researchers from around the world have tried to answer the question that the Soviet government refused to answer. What happened at Dyatlov Pass? The avalanche theory suggests the group was startled awake by a sudden snowslide, forcing them to cut their way out of the tent and flee before they could properly dress. But searchers found no physical evidence of an avalanche at the campsite. The snow around the tent was largely undisturbed. The infrasound theory suggests that certain wind conditions in the pass could have created a low-frequency sound inaudible to the human ear, but capable of causing extreme panic, disorientation, and even hallucinations, driving the group from their tent in a state of collective terror. The military testing theory points to the radioactive clothing and the unusual injuries, suggesting the group may have accidentally witnessed a secret Soviet weapons test and been deliberately silenced. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the case, and 2 years later, 2 Swiss scientists proposed a specific type of slab avalanche as the most plausible explanation for both the tent damage and the catastrophic internal injuries. But even that theory leaves questions unanswered. Questions about the missing tongue, the radioactivity, the strange orange tint witnesses reported seeing on some of the bodies, and the fact that the Soviet government sealed these files for decades before ever allowing the public to see them. There is one final detail to this story that is easy to overlook, but impossible to forget. Yuri Yudin, the one member of the group who turned back due to illness, lived for the rest of his life knowing he was the only one who survived. He attended his friends' funerals. He spent decades advocating for a full and transparent investigation. He never believed the official explanations. He died in 2013 at the age of 75, still without answers. In an interview near the end of his life, he said something that has stayed with researchers ever since. He said that not knowing was the hardest part, that whatever happened on that mountain, his friends did not deserve to have their deaths reduced to 4 words in a government report. A compelling natural force. 9 people who trusted each other with their lives. On a mountain, they had every skill and reason to survive. Gone in a single night, without a trace of explanation. Whatever took them has never been identified. It has never been proven. And it has never, in over 60 years, been silenced. Some stories do not have clean endings. Some mysteries do not get solved. Some questions outlive everyone who ever tried to answer them. The Dyatlov Pass incident is one of those stories. 9 real people, with names, with families, with diaries full of jokes and observations and plans for the future. Gone in a single night, on a mountain that should not have been able to kill them. The Soviet government gave the world 4 words and closed the file. The world has spent over 60 years refusing to accept that as enough. Whatever happened on that slope on the night of February 1st, 1959, it left behind a silence so loud that it has never stopped echoing. This is Echoes of the Forgotten, where every story gets told the way it deserves. If this moved you, like and share it with someone, because that is how forgotten stories survive.